What's the difference between high standards and perfectionism? Well, for one, perfectionism is not real. It's a theoretical idea, it's an illusion. And so if you find yourself constantly aiming for this elusive goalpost, then it never quite feels like you're there or it never quite feels right. But it'll be perfect when you feel it and you'll know it. But that time never comes. You're chasing something that simply doesn't exist. High standards, on the other hand, are things that you can concretely define and measure. And you can decide to do that in advance. You can decide to do that along the way. High standards simply means that you establish a measurable benchmark for the quality of whatever it is you're working on so that you know without ambiguity when you've reached and when you've met that standard. Now, as a perfectionist, you might say high standards, but what you really mean is perfection. If you're struggling with perfectionism and are worried that if you stop being perfectionistic, that suddenly your work is going to be subpar or crappy, that's not necessarily true because you can actually define what your high standard is in advance. And as long as it's concrete and measurable, you'll know when you get there. And you're not chasing this made up idea of perfection that you will never find and you will exhaust yourself trying to find. The second difference between perfectionism and high standards is that in perfectionism, you tie your worth as a person to the worth of what you produce. When we confuse our worth as people with the worth of what we produce, we are closing ourselves off to other ways of defining ourselves that are actually measurable and grounded in truth and not anxiety. If you have high standards, but they're not perfectionistic, then you can separate the evaluation of what you're producing from an evaluation of you or who you are. And thus, you're able to grow and challenge yourself, and you're able to be open to and receiving of feedback because you're not so busy trying to substantiate your own self-worth by looking at what you're producing and how other people are responding to it. And what can be really hard about this is that you've probably received a lot of accolades or praise for your high quality work. And that can actually reinforce this inaccurate association between your worth as a person and the worth of what you produce. Now, you can see if those two things are confused and you're also trying to pursue an unattainable level of perfection, that sets you up for long-term difficulties like burnout or depression or chronic anxiety or sleeplessness. So if this resonates with you, subscribe to my channel and sign up for my weekly Notes from Dr. Natasha, where I provide tools and resources to help you overcome perfectionism and burnout based in evidence-based principles of psychology research and my clinical experience.